Hi everyone, and welcome to our second Instagram Live with Etha. Today I will have Annie, or Anne, as some people know her as, from the UK with us. And I'll wait a minute for Anne to come in and then we'll see if she get to talk a bit more about what we're going to talk about. All right. Here she comes. Hi, everyone. Nice to see your waves. There we go. Hey, hi, Anne.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm really good, thank you. Really good. Really excited to be here with you and everyone else on Ether Live.
Yeah, really nice to have you. Thanks for taking the time. Yeah, we talked a little bit earlier, and the weather has shifted a bit in the UK as well, and here, and it's definitely a bit different vibe today than the last few
Yeah.
weeks. Mm.
Yeah, but I was saying it's especially in the UK in the east here, welcome for the rain because it was getting really dry. To have cracked ground in April's quite unusual, really.
Mm.
So yeah.
Great.
Mm.
Wonderful. So I have a few questions for you, and I'd love to hear a little bit about what you're seeing now. What are you're still seeing clients from home? Is that right?
Yeah, yes, very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so staying in touch over the phone, over Skype or Zoom, whichever one of these fantastic mediums that we're able to still communicate with. I think
Wonderful.
it's been quite interesting because the pattern has slightly shifted and changed over the weeks.
Mm.
So when this all first kicked off, it was really quite heightened anxiety and fear levels,
Mm.
understandably so, associated with catching something really so dangerous and life taking.
Mm.
And for people who suffer already with a tendency towards anxiety, then obviously this was very much being elevated, particularly anxiety around health.
Mm.
So yeah, there was quite a shift towards trying to help and calm
Mm.
some of those very natural fear responses, which is natural in all of us.
Yeah.
We have our basic survival instincts,
Yeah.
and that's really being strongly questioned. So
Yeah.
um,
And do you see, has that shifted now as time has gone on? Like, what are people talking to
slightly,
you
I
mostly
think,
about now?
I think people have now kind of almost come to terms with having to be at home and having maybe beginning to feel slightly safer because they're at home and they're not exposed, so they're in a
Mm.
kind of controlled environment. So some of the threats
Mm.
level in some way is we're slightly protected and slightly shielded,
Mm.
and so that has changed things. But what I also see is this fluctuation in highs and lows. So
Mm.
though maybe routines are the same or diet's the same, this kind of one day up, the next day feeling down,
Mm.
and having this kind of ebb and flow to life
Mm.
at the moment, and that being represented in health problems.
Mm.
Some days chronic things feeling more chronic, other days less so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is sleep something that people are talking about? That's something I hear a lot from my clients and people I
Yeah,
speak to that
very
um
much so. I was on a call with somebody else the other day, and there was some statistics that are apparently coming out that sleep problems are massively on the increase. Anxiety, first of all, generally is up
mm.
over 100%, and sleep is up there as well, kind of
Mm.
90% more sleep disturbances. And I think this is for a number of different reasons. One, this association with anxiety and fears and a lot of very, very real life things. So we talk about trust, safety, and shelter. These are the things that we need to really function well as human beings, and our basic needs. And if we haven't got any finances, and we're worrying about where our finances are coming from because someone's been furloughed or whatever, you know, they're very, very real things that create a lot of excess worry. Or maybe it's almost like shining a spotlight as well at the minute on certain elements of people's lives. This can really draw out things a bit more and create a bit more mental anxieties, which then impacts on sleep. The other thing is a change in routines. So a lot of people, we all have routines. I mean, it's crazy when you drive around, when you go to the shops or whatever around here, you know, you go outside and there's no cars. You see, I mean, it's gorgeous. You see more animals and more people than cars. But at the same time, it's really eerie and really weird because it's this completely different world to what we're used to. And we have this routine normally. And particularly if work has fallen out and people haven't got work to focus on, and the rhythm and routine with children in households have changed, then that kind of regular patterns of a regular bedtime and a regular getting up, that's changed for some people, and that has and can have a negative effect.
Yeah. And what are some simple things we can do? Like, the Ayurveda has so many wonderful tools to help us, because it's really a vata imbalance, right? This irregularity and anxiety and fear and which is natural feelings to have, but there's wonderful simple things that we can do to subside it and to balance ourselves a little more.
Yeah, definitely. And Ayurveda has loads to say on sleep. So we have what we call like the 3 supports to life. And one of them is sleep. So right from the very beginning of Ayurveda, they understood how important sleep is to life. We can't exist really without sleep. So there's lots and lots of recommendations. Lots of simple things that we can do. The first is really going with the flow of the day and responding particularly to lightness and darkness. So going to bed at an appropriate time. Now the question is, what is the appropriate time? This is different for each individual, and how much sleep a person needs is unique as well to that person. But we want to be going to sleep somewhere, let's say, certainly before 12 p.m. So somewhere between 9 and 12, something like that, for most people is going to be around about the right time. And what happens is the body naturally, the melatonin in the body starts increasing from late afternoon upwards and onwards. And so we naturally start to feel more sleepy. And what we want to do is create an environment around us which induces that sleep. And people with children will know that this can be really important when you're trying to sleep train children. And it's basically the same with adults. We want the kind of exposure to that soft lighting, turning the lighting down, being more aware, like maybe even if you've got a window, listening to the bird song as they're tweeting and they're coming, they're shutting down, it's getting nighttime for them too. So we're kind of making that association subliminally that night is coming. And then in Ayurveda, we recommend oiling can be really nice and really soothing and really calming. We can do that on the soles of the feet. We can do the earlobes, a really nice thing to do, just calming, centering, maybe with some scents. You can use lavender, super calming. If you can get hold of it, nutmeg oil can be quite nice, or orange blossoms, also really good, and that's really soothing for the heart. Anything that basically is quite calming. And then possibly a warm drink, a warm milk or a warm tea, something like that. And the big thing is no kind of excess stimulation, particularly for about half an hour before bed.
Mm.
So screens off, no movies, no excitable reading material, just kind of calming behaviors, maybe some pottering around, maybe some coloring, as in like those kind of when you can color in the mandalas or something like that, something that's just a really kind of soothing activity, and that's sending messages to the brain that it's time to get ready. And that's what's going on internally. So we're matching and mirroring what's going on internally.
Mm. Yeah, I always say to my clients, save the laundry for that evening. Just folding laundry, mundane tasks like that, doing the dishes, just cleaning up, and just getting the space nice and clean, and keeping your bedroom organized so that it's nice and calming to be in there. Yeah, yeah, very nice. So a lot of people wake up in the middle of the night, right? So maybe we were able to get to sleep in those hours if we can listen to our body and know when we're tired, and then act on that. But then in the Vata time between, say, 2 in the night till 4 or so, it's very common that people wake up. Do you have any good, that we got some questions about that as well. Do you have any good tips? What do you...
So we have to kind of understand, first of all, the sleep cycles.
Mm.
So we have different phases of sleep. We have the initial sleep phase where we just come into a very light sleep and the body starts really properly asleep yet, but it's starting to settle. Then we come into a slightly deeper sleep phase and the body's relaxing. And then we go into a really quite deep sleep phase. And this deep quality of sleep with not much brain waves going on, that can last, that's deepest at the first part of the night. And then we come in these kind of cycles, and then we come up into what's called rapid eye movement cycle. And that's when we're most prone to waking up or being woken up. If there's any stimuli going on, that's when we might wake up. And this cycle in this phase is like a wave in itself. So we're constantly through the night kind of rolling in and out of these different phases. And then as we get closer to the morning, we're more in this rapid eye movement phase. And what's going on in that time is the brain is literally, our memories are kind of, the whole of the day is being processed. Well, lots of things going on, but one of the things is the day is very much being processed. And coupled with that, the body's doing lots of repair. Lots of the immune system's doing loads of work, the digestive system, the growth. We have the human growth hormone that's being released, and there's things going on. Now, when we come up into these lighter sleep stage, this REM, that's when we can be prone to being woken. Now, in terms of dealing with it, there's different kind of ways of looking at it. So some of the reason why we get woken up can be very much a biological type thing that's going on. And so if we want to help clients with that, then what we're looking at is those underlying causative factors for that. So when you talk to people, they'll often say that they're waking up because they need to urinate, and they might be getting up a number of times in the night for that. So we'd be looking at either techniques to help them empty their bladder fully before they go to sleep so that there's less chance of them waking up, or maybe considering why it is that that's happening, or they might have something like restless leg syndrome, or they might have a number of different things that are causing them to wake. So that's kind of one sort of side of things. The other side of things is this, what's going on in the mind and what kind of anxiety levels and things that there are going on. And obviously at the moment that can be quite high for people. And so that disturbance can happen quite easily. The question is what, A, how to prevent that or help with that, and B, then what you can do if you are awake. In terms of preventing, you did a lovely thing last weekend, and that was the mala bead meditation. And this is something I love to share with clients when they report of difficulty sleeping, and particularly this waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to switch back off. So having a mala bead by the bed and going round the mala bead, you can find that people very quickly and very easily, suddenly they've just slipped back into sleep without realizing it.
The Ayurvedic version or yogic version of counting sheep or something.
Counting mechanism. That's what this is. This is a counting mechanism, a special one, but it's a counting mechanism. And the other cool thing is if you use it during the day, then you're helping to regulate and harmonize all of the patterns in the body and all the particularly the brain waves. That's what really we're playing with when we're meditating. So then there's more chance of better sleep happening at night. But certainly going around a mala bead in the middle of the night can help. The other thing, if we're talking about anxieties, that can be quite nice before that sleep happens, is to journal, is to write them out, get them down on a piece of paper, get them out. And it's out of the mind then, and then there's less chance of, because basically the body, the mind is, as I said, it's processing during the day, the events of the day. And obviously if there's a lot of stress going on during the day, it's still processing that in some form at night. The other thing is then there is acceptance that it's not okay, so what, we're awake, you know, it's fine, it's not the end of the world. The more we stress about not being able to get back to sleep, the more we're likely to struggle with getting back to sleep. So a bit of compassion, a bit of kindness to the self, just to accept it. And if you need to get up out of bed and you need to go off and do something and then come back to bed, it's not a problem. I think one of the questions that came through was about quality versus quantity, and what we want is just some quality sleep. And if that deep sleep in particular, where it's harder for us to wake, if we're banking that, then actually it's not such an issue if we're awake at other times. And especially when we're talking about Vata, the more that we stress about it, the more we're just going to increase that.
And I something that was shared with me when I started meditating was that if we just stay in shavasana, corpse pose, like the final relaxation posture in yoga, our body is resting, right? Even though we're not asleep, the mind gets to rest and the body gets to rest. So that helps me if I wake up. It happens quite rarely, but sometimes. And then to just stay and rest, and then eventually it passes. And so you touched on something really important too, that if we throughout the day have a lot of stress or have a lot of things going on, then that's going to affect our sleep as well, right? So I think starting even earlier in the day with our routine and finding ways to, as you said, prepare for sleep. And we got a question here as well about how important it is to have a sleep routine and the best hours to sleep. We talked a little bit about that, but also how can we find that routine? Like, do you have some ideas for how to build that routine into our day and into our evening?
So sometimes when I talk about the day, I talk about it that it's good to start from the night rather than from the morning, because if we can get a approach towards being comfortable with the amount of sleep that we're getting, then the day can start off well. So to answer the question, it depends from person to person what time you go to bed. That sounds a bit vague, but it's deliberately vague. So somewhere between, let's say, 9 p.m. and 12, depending on the person, depending on the season, because again, like in the dead of winter, sometimes, especially if I've had a really long day of clients back to back, I am done by 8 o'clock 8:30, and when it's been dark outside since 4 o'clock, I'm spent and I'm in bed asleep really early, and then I'm sleeping probably at least 10, if not 11 hours sometimes. This time of year, I'm now probably sleeping at about 10 p.m., 9:30, 10, something like that. And I'm waking up pretty much 6:05, bang, ready to go. And in the height of the summer, that might become even a bit less. But that's me as an individual, and each person is different. So if we can start the routine from there, and then we come to waking up in the morning, and if we can keep roughly the night time, the bedtime and the waking up time as a constant, then that's really good, because it's dealing with this kind of rhythmic inner clock that we have, and that's what we want to train, and that's what we naturally have. So we're tuning into that. So waking up in the morning, getting up at kind of 6ish, and having just a few moments of, let's call it contemplation. Just a few moments of peace, of harmony in the morning. You could represent that in whatever way floats your boat. For me, it's quiet meditation. For other people, it might be just staring out the window at the morning sky. Whatever works for the person, but just some moment of connection in the morning, and then maybe a short practice just to get the body moving a bit, and then regular meal times throughout the day, perhaps a kind of moment of quiet reflection or meditation or something in the afternoon. That can really help give that little bit of energy to get through the afternoon into the evening. And then certainly eating about 2-ish hours before bedtime, so that there's enough time for the digestion to take place. Then you'll find you'll get a better quality sleep.
Yeah, wonderful. And also we get a question as well about hormonal health. How does sleep and the routine affect our hormonal health?
So as I said, with what's happening during those sleep hours is we've got all these different secretions going on in the body, and all this, in essence, it's healing and regeneration that's happening. It's tissue repair, it's fat metabolism, it's muscle repair, it's everything. It's because we're offline, as it were. The body can really get into its rhythm and into its flow. And there's countless tests, particularly on athletes, that have been done these days that really verify this process. What happens as well is then we have this fluctuation in cortisol that happens, and then in the morning that starts to rise as we then wake up. And all of this is affecting, this is all hormones, and this is affecting our hormonal system. So it's one of the reasons why Ayurveda put it as one of these three pillars. They call it the 3 pillars of health. And that's where it comes from, is this rhythmic secretion that's going on that then builds the rest of our hormones that we then govern the rest of the day.
Okay, yeah, it's very important. What about if you have children? Know that you have 2 children yourself.
I have 2 children.
How do you manage with a routine for the whole family?
So I must admit, I never really fully understand the luxury that sleep is until I had children. And then I was like, oh my God, this is like torture. No one ever prepared me for sleep deprivation. And I really understood why it's used as a torture mechanism, because sleep deprivation it's not nice. So you can say all this and talk about all of this, but if you're in that phase with very young children where you're being woken up a lot, then it's just riding with it during those years. There's nothing you can do about it. It's riding with it and then banking sleep whenever you can during the day to supplement what you're not getting at night. Because I disliked the lack of sleep so much, I trained my children very quickly into some solid sleep pattern, and so pretty much maintained it since. So they're, joking aside, they're 10 and 11 now, and bedtime is never compromised, really. I always keep them to pretty much, I mean, as they've got older, they've stayed up a little bit later and a little bit later, but yeah, they pretty much get between 10 and 11 hours good sleep every night. And I can see the difference in them the moment. And of course, they're children and they have fun and they go to sleepovers and they, occasionally on a Saturday night stay up late or whatever. But if they've been really full on at school and they've had, I don't know, they've been on a camping trip for 3 days or something, they come home and I can see the difference in them. They've got now grey circles under their eyes and their temperament changes and their mood changes. So yeah, and I can see the difference as soon as they've had a couple of good nights. Their whole complexion completely changes.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's how did you train them? We talk about the routines, and it's, as you say, like, it's really a luxury to be able to have the freedom to decide when you go to bed yourself and to get enough sleep. And do you have any other specific tips for parents?
So I think the calmer that you can be, that the person putting them to bed, the mother, the father, the guardian, whoever it is who takes care of the child, the calmer that they can be when it comes to putting them to bed, I've noticed that makes a really big difference. So when they were particularly in that kind of 3-4 year old phase where there's a lot of transition and there's a lot of the identity that's sort of changing at that stage, and they're really kind of pushing some buttons and exploring boundaries, the calmer that I could be in those moments really made a difference. So I would sit, and while they're thrashing around going, I don't want to sleep, I would just sit there very quietly, just quietly meditating, turning a mantra over in my head, and they feel that vibration. That vibration is then in the room. And it's like yawning. I would sometimes pretend to yawn.
Yeah.
And they pick up on that and they respond to that. And it's the same thing as I was just talking about for us adults. The changing of the setting, to know that it's nighttime, to know that it's bedtime, changing the setting, changing the mood, a little bit of soft touch. That's a gentle story, nothing that's going to stimulate them or excite them, but just that soothing. And yeah, they give into it.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing with us. We're going to start to round up, but if there's, maybe you have the top 3 that you can send our listeners home with today, simple things they can do. I know we have a beautiful recipe that you created. I will share that tomorrow with everyone, and it's on your Instagram already. Is there anything else that you think might be helpful?
So I think kindness to oneself at the moment is really important. With a lot of the fluctuation and a lot of the changes that are going on, the kinder that we can be to ourselves and the kinder we can be to other people, that makes quite a big difference at the minute. So compassion for ourselves. So even if we plan to change our routine, or even if we plan to learn something, or even if we respond to our children in a way that we would have liked not to, it's having that compassion for ourselves, that it's okay, it's a moment, it is what it is right now, and to just have that kind of acceptance and that compassion for ourselves, I think is really important. And then I think extending that to others as well is really lovely. It gives one a nice feeling, and it's at the moment, because we can't touch other people and we can't interact in the way that we normally would, any kind of gesture, like putting something simple in the post to somebody, or sending them a message, or anything we can do to go that extra mile that we ordinarily wouldn't have time to do, it means an awful lot right now. So I think that's a nice thing. And for ourselves, self-love, so self-touching. So yeah, kind of gentle massage, maybe built into kind of routine related to sleep or something like that, is a nice thing that we can do for ourselves that will benefit us on multiple levels.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing with us, then.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so nice to meet you virtually. I've just seen your beautiful videos in the Etha Academy and look forward to share them with the world soon. There's a lot of really great footage with you. So thank you for your generosity and you're taking your time today.
You're welcome. It's good to be here.
Yes, and I hope to have you on again soon, and we'll stay in touch and stay well and kind until then. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks to
Thank
everyone.
you so much. Yeah, thanks to everyone watching. Have a beautiful evening.
Take care. Bye.